So in this lesson we will see AngularJS controllers. So what is exactly the controller? What is the role of the controller? Then how to create the controller? How to connect the controller with a view? All these things we have to understand in this lesson. So first, what is MVC architecture? We have to understand in the pictorial representation. In the past videos, we have given you the overview of MVC architecture in a textual manner, in a theoretical manner. Now we are going to explain in a pictorial representation. So MVC is an architecture. An architecture provides the way how do we divide the particular project code into many parts, many components. So MVC says that we are dividing the project code into three parts: model, view, controller. So model represents the data. Model says that I have data. Anybody wants, I will supply the data. So it contains some set of properties. So view says that I am the presentation, but I want the data. So you supply me the data, I will display. So what happens usually in the view, we will create some HTML tag and we will create relationship between the HTML tag and a property so that they will exchange the data together, which means property data will be exchanged to property data will be given to HTML tag, and HTML tag modifications will be updated into properties. For example, in the model property we have given some x equal to 10. The same value will be given to some text box. Same way, when the user has modified the text box value, automatically the same will be updated in the property. So it's two-way data bindings. So this is the data binding architecture in MVC. This is called data bindings. So however, when it comes to architecture point of view, we will say view, we have model, and then view can call the model. Model will never call the view, right? Model can supply the data to view, but model cannot call the view on its own. That's why in the architecture there is no reverse diagram. In the data binding, as it's two-way data binding, we have forward as well as backward. But in the architecture point of view, there is no reverse diagram, reverse arrow mark, because only view can call the model, model cannot call the view directly. Understand the difference? Now we also have controller. What this controller will do? Controller use Ajax. It will get the data from database and add the same data to model. Controller responsibility is using Ajax and getting the data into model. In basic programs, we may don't have Ajax concept. At that time, we will use some static data, fixed data. However, whatever the static data or dynamic data, whatever it is, adding the data to model is controller responsibility only. After adding the data to model, then controller will call the view and say that, hey view, already have given the data to model, so you go and get the data from model. See, controller will not give the model to view. Controller adds the data in the model, then controller will inform the view saying that, hey view, you go and get the data from model. Then view will meet the model and ask it to provide the data. Model already has the data, so it will pick up the data whatever it requires. In this way, controller model view executes. So the total MVC architecture is built based on 3 basic principles. First one is controller loads data into model plus controller calls the view. These are the controller responsibilities. Second one is view calls the model. We can make this as a second point. Okay, if so, then totally 3 points. Controller loads data into model, controller calls the view, view calls the model. These 3 are the basic principles of MVC. So that's why this particular diagram is called as MVC architecture. So you go to ASP.NET MVC, you go to Java Spring, you go to any other MVC based framework, this MVC architecture is fixed. Only the difference will be like how to create the model, how to create the controller, how to create the view, that syntaxes may be different. But the diagram and these 3 basic principles are common for every MVC framework. AngularJS is a framework which is developed based on what? MVC architecture. So we have understood the theoretical part now. How about practical? So AngularJS extends this concept. AngularJS provides the way of creating modules. So what is the meaning of module? You have a project, you have a big project having many parts. You are dividing the project into many parts. Each part is a module. You are dividing the large project into multiple parts. Each part is a module. So this is module 1, module 2, like this. In our project, you may have many modules. For example, in Gmail website, we have Gmail module, contacts module, etc. So multiple modules can be created. So if you look into the module, basically it contains views, models, controllers, which means that views, multiple views can be there. We can create any number of views in the module, we can create any number of models, we can create any number of controllers in the module. Same like this, we can also create directives, services, factories, etc. All these things you can create inside the module only. So in every module we can create views, models, controllers, directives, services and factories. So the diagram may be misleading, just a minute. Okay, directives, services, factories. So presently we don't talk about directives, services, factories in detail. In the further sessions we will see how to create them. But timing, we have to focus on only the first 3, that is views, models and controllers. So how to create the views, how to create the models, how to create the controllers inside the module. That part we have to see. So in a large project you can create any number of modules. For example, you have some insurance project. In that you have admin module, agent module, customer module, like that. Similarly, in net banking website also we have admin module, agent module, customer module, etc. Like that you can have any number of modules, and every module contains views, models, controllers, directives, services and factories. Like this unlimited number of modules. So how do we create a view inside the module? How do we create a model inside the module? How do we create the controller inside the module? First of all, how to create the module? How to create a module? So in Angular.js, there is a predefined function called angular.module. We have already downloaded Angular.js file, right? This one. In this particular file, we have a predefined function called angular.module, which is used to create the module. The arguments that you have to pass is first module name, comma dependencies. What is meant by dependencies? Assume we are creating in the module, and inside that particular module we are using a function of another module. So first system has to load that particular module into memory, then only it has to load our module. So our module depends on that previous module. So we have to mention the previous module name here. That is called dependencies. So this module depends on these. Next, so we have to store the module reference in a variable where app is equal to this one. So app is a variable, you can give any other variable name. Once we created a module, how do we create a view inside the module? How to create a view inside the module? So already we have ng app, right? But we were giving like this. But now you are giving double quotes, then module name. What module name? This module name we have to mention here. For example, module name is M. We have to give M here also, which means that we have created a view inside the module. Also, we have to create controller. How to create the controller? Already we have created a module. That module reference is available in a variable, that is app. So app.controller of controller name, comma function. What is controller? It's a function. Controller is a function. So we have to pass anonymous function and of course controller name. So now we have to tell this particular controller name to this view, because there should be connection between the view and the controller, right? See, the concept is, in the same module you may have any number of views, any number of controllers. Then how do we understand that, how the system knows that this view is connected to this controller only? That's why you have to specify ng controller is equal to controller name. This controller name should match. So this is the procedure, the way how do we create the module, controller and view. Then how about model? Model will be automatically created when we create the view. We have created a view, right? Automatically model will be created. That model is directly accessible in the controller by using $scope. $scope means represents the model. So what are the data we have added to scope that is directly accessible in the corresponding view? Because first there is a connection between the view and controller. So what are the data we have added to $scope that is by default accessible to the view? So this is the theoretical part of understanding module, model, controller and view. Let's see an example. Let's take a scenario such that we have some employee details that is employee ID, employee name, salary. Also we have student details, student ID, student name and marks. So what is the data actually? Employee ID 101, employee name Scott, salary is 4,000. Student ID is 201, student name Alan, marks is 80. So this is the model. This is actual data. This particular data should be visualized in the view. So we have to create the opposite view. The view is meant for displaying the data. So what is view? HTML tags. What is model? JSON object. So these two are connected. First of all, view and model are connected. That is the reason any data present in the model is accessible by the view. So here we are creating two div tags. The first div we are displaying the employee details. For example, we have some text boxes. In the text boxes we want to display the data. 3 text boxes in the first one, 3 text boxes in the second one. But the concept is there should be connection, right? There should be connection between the text box and property. So this connection is on property. Just a minute. Okay, so this connection is a one kind of binding, and reverse also. What is the meaning? When we modify something in the text box, automatically updated in the property. When we modify the property, automatically updated in the text box. Vice versa. Same way, all these are having the relations. So what do you understand from this? Model stores the data, view displays the data. Then the question is, who will add the data to model? Through which function we will add the data to model? That is controller. In the controller function, what will you do? Add data to model and also call the view. So this is what we try to do in the controller. In that way, controller can access the model because controller is adding the data to model, right? And controller can call the view. In this way, MVC architecture is fulfilled here. Check it. Now let's see the actual program. So HTML, head body, AngularJS, modules and controllers is the main topic title, and we have to import the file angular.js. Already we have that particular file in the same folder. See, check it. In the same folder we are having modules.html as well as angular.js. How do we get this file? Go and download in the angularjs.org website. Now, so script type equal to text by JavaScript. Now creating a module. How to create the module? Where app is equal to angular.module. Module name comma dependencies. Presently I don't have any dependencies, right? See, in future, assume we are using a service or factory or a directive which is present in other module. Assume we have created two modules, A module, B module. In A module we have a service, we are calling the same in B module. At that time, while creating B module, we have to tell the name of A. That is called dependency. Presently we don't require all these things, but in future we will see. We'll see one real example where the service is present in one module and we have to call in another module. That is an advanced topic. Presently timing it will be empty brackets only. Now creating a controller. Actually we can do one thing, we can create a function, we can assume it's as a controller, then we can add controller to module. How do we add controller of controller name? We can give any name, that is my controller name, comma function name. But the shortcut way is better cut the function and paste here. This is mostly we will see in real-time applications. So now in this $scope is a predefined variable. This is coming from this particular angular.js file. So what exactly the $scope will do? $scope represents the current model. What is meant by current model? When we create the view, automatically a model will be created, right? Also a controller will be called, right? So at that time, that controller can access the corresponding model, that is called current model. Current model is represented as $scope. So $scope dot employee is equal to JSON object, emp id 101, emp name Scott, salary 5,000, student details, student id 201, student name John, marks 80. So we have successfully added the data to scope. This data is directly accessible in the view. Finally, how to create the view? Div ng app is equal to my module, which means that we are creating a view inside the my module. This view is a part of the my module. What is module? Collection of views, controllers and models. And also I want to say that this view is connected to ng, this view is connected to my controller. So ng controller is equal to my controller. Now, so we have a table. Inside the first table we have border equal to 1. So caption is employees tr td employee id. Here I want to display actual employee id. So by default we can access anything present within the $scope. See, no need of writing $scope in the view. Directly we can access all its members in the expression. So we have employee, directly we can call this employee dot emp id. So that's why employee dot emp id here. Now same like this, we are displaying employee name and salary. So this is one table. Let's have another table. The second table we have student, student ID, student name, student name, marks. So finally check the program top to bottom. So first we have imported the AngularJS file. We have created a module. We have created a controller inside module. We are adding the employee data and the student data to the $scope. Then we are creating the view inside the my module, and we are binding to especially my controller inside it. The first table we are displaying employee data, employee ID, employee name, salary. And in the second table we are displaying student details, student ID, student name and marks, and that's all. So check the output. Employee details not appear. Employee spelling. Okay, spelling mistake is there. Okay, so we are displaying employee ID as well as student details. So in this way we have understood the modules concept. In the next session we will see the next topic.